At Great Wolf Lodge, there's adventure for the whole family. You and your pack can splash away in the indoor water park where it's always 84 degrees. There's a massive wave pool, a lazy river, and tons of water slides for your pack to enjoy together. And the fun doesn't stop there. Get ready to explore and play at adventure-packed attractions, from Magi Quest, a live action game that takes place throughout the lodge, to the Northern Lights Arcade. There's also a bunch of great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. And the best part, with 23 lodges across the country, you're always only a short drive away from the adventure. I was just looking at pictures with Robin about when she took her family when her kids were little. The pictures, boy, they look like they were having the best time. I mean, just looking at these pictures, it makes you want to go and have a great time. So bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Book your stay at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. One of the things that is coming up a lot that I hear, and that young people are using this language, is that we have to set boundaries. And I think a lot of times boundaries is misinterpreted as I can shut you down, or I can treat you in this way because I am setting a boundary. And that's not what boundaries are, by the way. It also just is a way to disconnect. We can't give our kids permission or model for our kids that we treat other people badly, particularly when we're just out in the world interacting. I think we really need to pay attention to it now.
Welcome to Season 8 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about managing worry, anxiety, and all the other emotions too.
I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, author, speaker, and mom. I've been a therapist for 35 years, and I'm still in the trenches with families, helping them navigate daily struggles and big problems. Parenting can be a flusterclux, but we tackle the serious stuff without being too serious.
I'm Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law and co-host, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Ed, the producer of Flusterclux.
And my brother.
And my husband.
Anxiety is a family problem with a family solution.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, Robin.
So it's the fall school year season is back in full swing, and some people are back to school. I am very excited for Season 8.
Yeah, and we joke that we don't really know what the seasons are.
Before we figured it out, we were sort of like, Season 1, 4 weeks. Season 2, 12 weeks. So the first few years during COVID, we were making it up as we go. Now the seasons cover a calendar year.
Yeah, we're pros now. We know what we're doing now.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Sarah Jessica Parker's Sex and the City character eclipsing her story? I think the final episode of the newest season, and Just Like That, will have aired. So Sarah Jessica Parker, as you know, was Carrie Bradshaw starting in what? This would have been like 1998 or 99, I think, is when the show aired. So in August of this year, the last episode of the new season, the new series, and Just Like That, they realized it was time to just write the ending.
Oh.
So the ending is coming, and they didn't announce it until a few weeks before because they didn't want to make people preoccupied with the ending.
Yeah. Are you getting a little verklempt?
Okay.
Okay, you know we're criers, right? Anything can make us cry. So I can see Robin's face.
It's true. I am verklempt.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sex and the City, here's what people missed about the show. I feel like maybe we talked about this in an early episode. Yes, people say they watch it for the fashion and the humor, but here is what people actually really are drawn to the show and feel so emotionally invested. It is one of the few examples of authentic, unconditional friendship where women friends can be honest with each other. They can fight. They can forgive. They can say what they think. They don't sweep junk under the rug.
They call each other out.
They call each other out. They make each other better. They make each other live more honest lives.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to some interview about this, and it may have even been SJP talking about something. But she was saying, or whoever I was listening to, was saying that we all wish that we had this group of friends that we could meet for brunch on Sunday morning and talk about exactly what was going on. Like they didn't hold back. And even when I wrote the anxiety audit, one of the examples I gave of when I was talking about loneliness and isolation is that episode when Miranda was by herself after she and Steve broke up on New Year's Eve, remember? And Carrie comes across the city in her ridiculously high heels, blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of like the fantasy, the friendship fantasy that a lot of people have, particularly if you haven't had that level of connection. So yeah, I totally get why you're verklempt.
There are a lot of soulmates ideally in our lives, and the power of women friend soulmates is just huge.
Yeah.
I also really liked that she and Big, the show ended right when your brother and I got married. And it was like, we ended singledom together. So
Yeah.
it's a nice like show arc because I was dating in New York City when the show was going on.
Yep. And as you know, I was never dating anywhere.
I know, she wasn't.
I had one date with Stephen Gallo. We went to go see Urban Cowboy. I'm sure I've recounted that horrific experience, but that was it. Then I got married.
At 15.
My parents were so upset, but they signed the papers. So what are you going to do? No, I did not get married at 15, but I met my husband when I was 17. Robin was in New York City dating, and I was not, everybody. I was not. One of the best experiences I had this summer, actually, was I went on a long hike, 20.2 mile hike over 4 peaks of a mountain because my friend is trying to hit all of the 48 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. And so me and another friend got up at 3 a.m. One of the husbands drove us to the starting point of this huge hike. It was a glorious day. And it was 12 hours of these 3 really great women, if I may say so, including myself in that. It was just like, we were just on a high afterwards of texting. Like that was an amazing experience. It was just, so that experience, you know, you could have it in New York City, you could have it on the top of a mountain, but boy, do I value my female friends.
Now we're both crying.
Now we're both crying. All right, maybe we should take a break, get our shit together, and then we'll come back and actually talk about what we want to talk about today. Hey, how did you make money when you were a kid? I used to babysit, and I remember we had this incredible lemonade stand that made us a lot of cash. Then what do you do with the money? Were you a saver? Were you a spender? Do you have kids that get money that it burns a hole in their pocket and they spend it on things really quickly, but you'd much rather have them learn how to save up or think more thoughtfully about what they're using their money for? If you are interested in giving your kids a head start on their money skills, then you should think about using Acorns Early. Acorns Early is the smart debit card and money app that grows kids' money skills as they grow up. Instead of having kids that get money and spend it quickly, it introduces them to the idea of how to set savings goals, start building healthy money habits early. They can spend what they've earned with their very own customizable debit card, giving them that extra sense of independence. And you know how I love giving kids independence. If this product had been around when my kids were younger, I would have absolutely used it. Plus, with spending limits and real-time spend notifications, you're always in the loop too. Ready to teach your kids the smart way to earn, save, and spend? Get your first month on us when you head to acornsearly.com/fluster or download the Acorns Early app. That's 1 month free when you sign up at acornsearly.com/fluster. Acorns Early Card is issued by Community Federal Savings Bank, member FDIC, pursuant to license by MasterCard International. Free trial for new subscribers only. Subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled. Terms apply at acorns.com/earlyterms.
Taking on a DIY job around the house is the ultimate summer project. But if your DIY home security system is a beware of dog sign, when your real pet is Princess the cat, that's safe-ish. To be actually safe, help protect your home with a DIY system from ADT. It's easy to install and gives you virtual assistance from ADT's technical support team. Best of all, you can tell everyone in the neighborhood you set it up yourself. Don't settle for safe-ish this summer. DIY with ADT instead. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
Who doesn't love summer? Something about it just makes you feel your best. You're active, you're healthy, so it's a great time to create healthy meal habits that last right into the fall, right into the winter. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating, and I'll tell you why. Green Chef makes it easy to spend less time in the kitchen, more time enjoying summer, and they are perfect meals for supporting your wellness journey. Their recipes feature fresh, organic, seasonal produce, 100% responsibly sourced proteins, clean, real ingredients that are going to help you build lasting healthy habits without the hassle for you and your family. I love the Mediterranean choices. They've also got plant-based. And if you're looking to up your protein, they've got really delicious protein-heavy meals that I have loved. The recipes change every week. And with week-to-week flexibility, you can adjust your plan to match your mood and your schedule. Make this summer your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50fluster and use code 50fluster to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. I love these meals and so will you. So use code 50fluster at greenchef.com/50fluster. Okay, we're back.
So, Lynn, I loved what you said we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about manners, which is kind of sounds like a silly thing to talk about, but there's a lot of talk about social skills and helping kids connect with other kids and how we do play dates and that kind of stuff. Mindy, who's been on the podcast, sent me an article that really sparked this idea of, are we teaching kids manners? And this is also a really important way to help kids connect. One of the things that so brought this to the forefront of my mind too is what happens when you do something kind for somebody else and they acknowledge it. That's manners, but even just the basis of connecting with other people in a polite and respectful way. And based on the world that we're living in right now, I think it's worth some discussion.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there are so many areas in manners to discuss where it comes up with parenting. And I want to start by acknowledging one of my very good friends who actually taught etiquette classes in college to younger children.
Oh, that is very cool.
She said something that stuck with me that I used as a mantra when raising our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well-behaved children are welcome everywhere.
Oh.
And we used that line a lot. And one of the things that when my husband and I are talking about the choices we're making as parents and what we're trying to teach and what we're trying to model, ultimately the goal of manners is not to maintain some sort of stuffy code or whatever. It's really, how do you make people enjoy your company, welcome your presence, not judge you negatively for, like, it's just basic stuff. It's really ultimately about connection.
It is about connection.
And people wanting to be around you and how not to raise assholes, basically. So it's not about like, do your children know every fork to use? That's not what we're talking about here.
No, we're talking about connection. We're talking about being polite. And I just want to say this little disclaimer right now, because some people may be saying like, oh my gosh, I have a kid that has ADHD and they have a really hard time with impulsivity, or I have a kid on the spectrum and so it's really hard for them to blah, blah, blah. Or I have a kid who has a really hard time even speaking in public because they have selective mutism. And all of that is absolutely legitimate, of course. And what I always say is, let's not give up on teaching the skills because we have kids that have differences. And so there are ways in which we are teaching kids to be kind and respectful and connected within their own limitations, within their age, within what they're capable of. But it's not something that we should say, well, they can't do this because that's when we start limiting their ability to connect. And from my perspective, with anxiety and depression, man, that's one of the agendas of these disorders is isolation and disconnection. So we want to try and stay ahead of that and be optimistic that these skills can and should be taught for sure.
Yes. And I'm also just going to say, and they need to be refreshed all the time as adults. And so one of the things that we talk about with our kids is, I think, they're teenagers now. When they were children, it was a little different, but now we acknowledge we had an awkward social experience today, family, and we talk about it recognizing that these skills are lessons we work on the rest of our lives, as opposed to pretending that we have all the answers. And I think that opens up more discussion about these tricky situations.
Well, and just to go back to dating again, which I never did, but I know it's a thing. One of the tropes that comes up with dating is pay attention to how, when you're on a date, pay attention to how the other person treats your server or treats somebody who's waiting on you in some particular way, that's very indicative of who they are as a person. And that has to do with manners. That has to do with respect. That has to do with treating people kindly, which is really what manners are and social skills are, is how do we treat people with respect and kindness?
So that there's a possibility of connection.
Correct.
To be seen.
Yeah. And one of the things that is coming up a lot that I hear, and that young people are using this language, is that we have to set boundaries. And I think a lot of times boundaries, that word boundaries, is misinterpreted as I can shut you down or I can treat you in this way because I am setting a boundary. And that's not what boundaries are, by the way. And it also just is a way to disconnect. We can't give our kids permission or model for our kids that we treat other people badly, particularly when we're just out in the world interacting. I think we really need to pay attention to it now.
I'm just going to add a footnote to that comment, because sometimes you have two sons and I have a son and a daughter. So one of the interesting points, though, that I also want to share that mothers of daughters can relate to is there are moments when you're talking to your daughters that your safety takes priority over how someone feels. This came up. My daughter was like 10, and some strange man starts talking with her while I'm in the restroom with her younger brother and asking her where she lived and what school she went to. And she was alone for literally 120 seconds, fortunately. And this was a small bakery. There were only that she could have gone up to the staff person, but we had a great talk about that too, is that your safety is a priority. You don't owe other people at the cost of your safety to make them comfortable.
Well, let's just put the caveat that we're not talking about situations in which somebody is feeling threatened or they're in a situation. If somebody's being creepy or whatever, we don't want to give the message to girls like, you have to be polite, right? We're talking about moving through the world in ways in which, not even with strangers, I'm talking really about manners with people that you know as well. The basics of how do you make eye contact, which is hard for some kids. How do you help kids learn greetings? I think we talked about in a previous episode, and I may have talked about this with Ed actually, is we were trained growing up how to answer the phone in our house, that it was manners. We would pick up the phone and had a thing that we said. There were rules of engagement with the phone. For one, my mom said, you don't hold the phone and yell for me. You put the phone down and you come and find me. So just that kind of manners. Writing thank you notes, expressing appreciation for somebody who does something kind for you. How do we do that? I got a note from a friend recently, and she had experienced a family tragedy. And the family tragedy happened several months ago. She just sent my husband and I a note yesterday that was so kind and touching and sweet. And that effort, that kindness, that good manners really meant a great deal to me, because what she was saying is what you did meant a great deal too. It was just such a connection moment. I mean, it was truly just a lovely, lovely note. Yeah.
When you think about that situation, when you offered the support she was thanking you for, I don't know the details, but you did something to say, I see you. And she responded with something to say, I see you. And I think that that is ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, it was kindness. I mean, I showed up when the tragedy happened. We showed up. But in the note, she wrote several other ways in which I had shown up for her over the years. She just cataloged, you did this, you did this, you did this. It was just such a thoughtful, kind note. And I think when we talk about manners, when we talk about social skills, it really is, how do we teach our kids to express appreciation in little ways and big ways that allow us to connect? So the manners of just saying thank you, the manners of holding the door for somebody, doesn't matter what gender, who cares? The manners of expressing appreciation to somebody who went above and beyond. I mean, you guys travel all the time. I'm sure that you are experiencing a variety of people who are helping you in some way, and that we model for our kids. This is how we show kindness and appreciation. This is how, in very small ways and very big ways, we let other people know that we see them. And I think that's what these kind of social skills and manners are about. Yeah.
You bring up our travel just because I work in the travel industry, and it's true that like we're in hotels with my kids a lot. From an early age, one of the things that we would always say to them is, you aren't allowed to make choices that impact someone else's job. Like, don't make a mess here. Someone has to clean this up. You see everyone in this little ecosystem of a building. You see them. You don't get to ignore them. By seeing them, you don't do anything that would add burden to them, because you see them as people who are just trying to do their job.
Right.
And I think whether you're going to the ice cream shop or whatever, always remind kids, the mess that you've made with the napkins on the floor, someone has to clean up after you. See these people. And I think that whether it's the friend or the person at the ice cream store, it's helping them have a pattern of thinking outside themselves.
Yes. And I even think, like, when I'm on customer service for some reason, I'm trying to return something or whatever, that one of the things I remind myself, because usually when you're making those phone calls, it's like the most frustrating part of your day because something's not going the way you want it to go. I imagine that person on the other end of the phone going home from work at the end of the day, and their partner or somebody saying, how was your day at work? And they're going like, you know what? I spoke to the most awful bitch today that blah, 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 blah. And I think I would have rather have them go home from their job and say, oh, I spoke to this lady who was really nice or was really kind or was really appreciative. It's just the imagining. I love how you're saying that. It's imagining how your efforts at kindness or manners or acknowledgement make a difference in somebody else's day. And it really does matter. Yeah.
It does. And I think that that's where, as we have such a digital world now, and these younger people, when the interaction is so hypothetical because it's on a screen, these in-person skills, the way to think about in-person connection, we probably have to talk about it in a way that you wouldn't have raising a baby in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking to, again, like I always say, this lovely young person in my office, but I really do so enjoy my clients. And she had a little bit of a brouhaha with her friend group. And she was relating to me how they were texting each other and what they were saying to each other. And I said to her, I don't think you guys would have said any of that face to face. I don't think you would have done that. So I think that when we're talking to kids right now in this digital age, the idea of kindness, the idea of the impact that you have on other people is pretty profound. And one of the things that I think is really helpful to say to kids, like you're saying to your kids, imagine somebody cleaning up your mess. Imagine how you're impacting their day. Imagine saying that face to face. One of the ways that allows us to be rude, that allows us to dispense with manners, is that we don't see the impact that our words or our behavior has on somebody else. And helping kids imagine that is really, really important.
One of the things that I think about a lot since we started the podcast and we talk about connection so much is I think about what are the skills that each individual that are age appropriate, whether you're 8 or 80, When you're lonely and you seek connection, what is your calling card? How do you seek that connection? And kids often will say, will you play with me? So that's always like a code when parents hear like, will you play with me? That child is like seeking connection. But when it's no longer, will you play with me? It's going to have to be replaced by something else. So when you're parenting teens and young adults, what does that look like? How do you reach out for that sort of connection?
Mm-hmm. Well, and isn't that a great question to ask? So even if I'm thinking clinically, if I'm speaking to a teenager that's lonely, or they come in and they say, I'm having trouble with friends, or I'm trying to make friends, the term that's often used in marriages too is a bid for connection. What's the bid for connection? But if you talk to kids about what do you do? And it's funny, you think of playgrounds, right? Little kids come up to each other and they say like, hi, my name is Fred, or how old are you? Or they just ask a direct question. Sometimes they even say, hey, do you want to be friends? But teaching kids as they go through different stages of life, what is it that you can do that's a bid for connection? How do you express kindness, or how do you open the door in a way that is a bid for connection?
I think regardless of grade your kids are in, it's the beginning of the school year. Ask who in their class has a really great way of connecting with other kids, and what is it that they do? What is it that you do or don't do differently? And especially if you check in and you talk about this, you'll say like, you can't say, do you want to go play? Do you want to kick the ball over here on this part of the playground during recess anymore? So what would be some other ideas? So it's like you're helping them along the way, connecting with other people.
And the other question you can ask them too, which I think just goes back to all of this topic of sort of politeness and connection, is that you could ask your older kids, obviously your little ones won't be able to answer this, but how does being polite show kindness? And ask them for examples. Please and thank you. Or you're in school and you're handing out papers because your teacher asked you, how do you do that? How does being polite foster connection and kindness? And I think if we can help kids make that connection for themselves, we're doing them a great service at the beginning of a relationship. Something is going to get your attention. When you're first meeting somebody, something is going to get your attention. And it's either going to be that they were rude and dismissive, that's going to get your attention, or that they were kind and connected and, like you said, well behaved. But how does politeness and manners foster connection? And how is that connected to kindness? I think that's a really helpful way to frame it for kids so that they can begin to see the value in this.
Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. The kids are back in school. The vacations are over. It's officially the start of the cozy season, which means you need your Bombas socks and your slippers. They have the most comfortable socks, slippers, tees, and underwear out there. They're made from premium materials like merino wool that keeps you warm when it's chilly but cool when it's hot. Supima cotton, it's softer and stronger and more breathable than regular cotton. And even rag wool, the thick, durable, classic cozy sock that you'll want all fall. For every item you buy, Bombas donates one to someone experiencing homelessness. Over 150 million items have been donated thanks to customers. If you're not satisfied, 100% guarantee they'll make it right. There's no risk and all reward. I love my Bombas socks. I wear them every time I go to the gym. I love them. I wear them hiking. They last and last and last. In fact, I just got back from a hike wearing my Bombas compression socks. Head over to bombas.com/audio and use code AUDIO for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/audio. Code AUDIO at checkout. We all want to feel organized and confident with our finances, don't we? Monarch Money is the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop or on your phone. And right now, just for our listeners, Monarch is offering 50% off for your first year. I have 2 sons that are young adults. They're figuring out how to manage their money, how to pay attention to all the different places that they spend and all the best ways to save. If you are trying to figure out how to maximize your investments, if you're trying to figure out how to save more to get the best from your money, then do what my sons do and pay attention week by week, able to look and see where your money is going and not leaving money on the table. That's the goal. It's easy to get complacent. You don't need to track every dollar, but ignoring your finances entirely can cost you. It's not just another finance app. Monarch is a total, real professional tool, and experts love it. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code FLUSTER at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code FLUSTER. Fall is in full swing. It's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe with pieces that feel as good as they look. Luckily, Quince makes it easy to look polished, to stay warm, and to save big without compromising on quality. I'm looking at some cashmere sweaters. They also have great washable silk shirts that travel well for me and work fabulously for work. If you wear t-shirts like I do, they have a cotton modal scoop t-neck 3-pack for $36. 3 high-quality t-shirts. I already have several of their t-shirts. I love them. By partnering directly with ethical top-tier factories, Quince cuts out the middlemen to deliver luxury quality pieces at half the price of similar brands. If you are interested in looking good, in saving money, and in having a great wardrobe that works for you this fall, keep it classic and cozy this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/fluster for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/fluster to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/fluster. Okay, so now back to the show.
You know, Lynn, I think what we're really talking about is as we start this new school year, it's really about a check-in of what are these social goals in addition to the academic goals that we as parents want to help continue to nurture in our kids and sometimes with ourselves. How many listeners here have a lot of issues around the awkwardness of parents at school too? I'll be candid. I'm not a fan of the school events with the parents. And I figured out why it is I don't love that environment. We're so vulnerable about our kids. Like it's just putting our hearts on our sleeves. And when you put 800 parents in a building for the purpose of being there related to the kids, everyone's so like ungrounded and insecure and vulnerable. It's a weird energy. I think that's why those parent night energies.
Yeah, it's the height of social comparison too.
Yes, it's like all these negative things I'm not a fan of. Do you have any advice for me to, be willing to engage in it more? Because I just sort of like don't do it. I mean, I confess, I just don't do it.
Well, I think if somebody is in a situation like you where they know going in there's going to be social comparison and all that kind of stuff, you can give yourself a little assignment. You can give yourself a little task, is that your goal is to be genuinely kind to people at the event. You know, one of the things, and we've talked about volunteering before, and we'll talk about it again, but one of the things we know that volunteering helps with is anxiety and depression in general. And it's because it takes you out of an internal focus and makes an external focus. So as soon as you get out of your own head and start doing something that's meaningful or helpful to somebody else, you feel better. So if you were to go into this situation, you might say to yourself, okay, so it's easy for me to go into this situation and be in my own head and compare myself to other people or have these stories going on about this person or that person, to feel uncomfortable, to feel vulnerable, to be judgy, because judging is part of being a social animal. And to say, I'm going to look for opportunities to say 3 genuinely kind things to somebody else. That will get you out of your own head and you will start looking for opportunities if you give yourself that assignment. And it's going to take up more brain space than being inside with your head, with your brain, thinking about how you don't fit in or thinking about how these people are not like you or whatever it is that you say. That would be the assignment that I would give to somebody. If I had a client coming in and saying, oh my God, I'm so shy or I'm so awkward or I hate these school events, I have to go to a parent night, I would say, okay, here's your assignment. I want you to find 3 ways to be kind to somebody else. And again, remember that there are other people who are feeling the same way that you are, and you are connecting with somebody who may be feeling as vulnerable and as detached as you are when you go to these events. So get out of your own head and practice that and model that for other people. It makes a big difference for sure.
I had such reactions to what you just said, as if you were my therapist. It was interesting. I mean, because I think what you just said is excellent advice. And my defensive internal response was, yeah, but that's not what I mean or whatever. Like, and I caught myself like, oh, I'm being defensive here. And I'm catching myself because I don't like going into things where I know there's social comparison, not because I fear the social comparison. I'm just annoyed by it all. I want us to all interact in a more authentic way. And that's hard to do in those environments. But again, why don't I just not care and just show up and be kind?
Mm-hmm. I was recently on a teaching trip, and I had to do a variety of social things. Like when I'm speaking at a conference, I have to be on and I have to pay attention to how I'm presenting, not when I'm presenting on stage, but just with people. And I had to go to this one small event. I was actually looking forward to it. And my goal going in, because I was a little tired at the end of the day, my goal going in was to really bring the kindest part of me to this event. And I ended up having the most lovely conversation with this person that I wouldn't have even expected to have the conversation with. I really just made this lovely, lovely connection with someone. And all I said to myself was, go in with your kindness right up front. And I am generally a kind person, but I can be cranky and I can be tired and I can be grumpy. And we all know that the mental health field can drive me crazy. But it was really me making that effort to get out of my head and to put kindness in front. And of course, for selfish purposes, I think the person I was talking to enjoyed our conversation. I had a lovely time. I had a wonderful time.
I love that. I really love that. And I'm going to push and ask you a tough question. I think that's brilliant and simple. I think that there are, in my life now, the trickiest social dynamics, and they're not always tricky. I mean, like I consider myself like a relatively socially competent person, but I still hit friction moments where I'm like,
you cry too much, but other than that, you're good.
Only when talking to you about sentimental things. Well, talking to anybody about sentimental things. Tell me how that would work when you are at a professional event with other therapists.
Well, this was a professional event, and I was with other therapists.
Because this is where it gets a little tricky, right? We have to be a little more disciplined here.
Yeah, this is truly what I say to myself. And I'm not like trying to sound grandiose here, but people come up to me when I'm at this event. There are people who have come to see me speak. And I really pay attention to how I want them to feel when they leave the interaction. I really pay attention to that. And I imagine, because I've had this experience when I was younger and I would be at events and I would be meeting somebody that I admired or whatever, I did have a few times in which people were dismissive of me, in which their arrogance or their ego was right up front. And I left the interaction feeling badly and feeling not so great about them, but also feeling really embarrassed for myself. And maybe I shouldn't have said something. I've had those experiences. So when I am at a big event and there are a ton of therapists around, and I know that they have come to hear me speak, I am consciously thinking, how do I want this person to feel after this interaction? And I put that hat on and I pay attention to that. This is why sometimes when I go to events, it's tiring for me because I'm a human being but that's really how I feel. And that's really what I think about. And I had a few of those. I had one interaction at it was a big conference. There were like 1,300 people there. And I was sitting on a couch, just sort of drinking coffee or whatever. And some therapists sitting on another couch nearby started talking about me. And they didn't know that I was sitting right there. And then one of them said, "That's her right there." And I said, "Yes, this is me." And then right then I thought, so how do I want this interaction to go? And they were saying nice things about me. How do I want this interaction to go? And it was really about very basically good manners, but it was, how do I want them to feel after this interaction? That's what I think. That's what I say to myself. Yeah.
I love that.
And also, I have a frozen shoulder and I couldn't zip up my dress. And so I had to ask for help for people that worked in the hotel because I couldn't zip up my dress. And that was a really good lesson in just like trying to be kind and have manners and appreciate this human being that I don't know. And I'm going to come up to her and she's like working at the restaurant. I scoped out somebody that looked about my age because I was like, she understands a menopausal frozen shoulder. And I was like, "Hi, I'm in a bit of a pickle. Can you zip up my dress? My shoulder doesn't work." And she was like, "Absolutely, lady, turn around." Although she was Southern. So she's like, "Absolutely, lady, turn around." But it's just those interactions of kindness and manners and letting people know their value. That's what manners are, really, I think.
So much to think about. We talk about connection and the things that hinder it, not having a view that includes other people in your world. You mentioned well-behaved. A well-behaved child in a restaurant acknowledges this restaurant is not their kitchen at home.
Right.
It's being considerate that everyone's sharing this space.
Yes, everyone's sharing this space and everybody's doing their job and everybody has a part to play. That's really, I think, what we want our kids to hear. And if you've got kids that have challenges, if you've got a child on the spectrum, we know that social interactions can be something that need to be talked about and reviewed. If you've got a child who is socially anxious, you've got a child that's selectively mute, as I said at the beginning, I want the message to be that you can teach these in simple ways. And like you said earlier, Robin, you're going to have to teach this and go over this 82,000 times. And this is what our job is. But I think that message, I love that message, is that you are engaging with other people and we are all in this together. And if you are in a restaurant, if you are on a cruise ship, if you are at a conference, if you are
at parents' night.
Yeah, a parents' night, if you are in your classroom, if you are on a soccer field, this is about letting other people know that you see them and you hear them and you respect them. That's what manners do. Have you been watching The Gilded Age?
Oh, of course.
Talk about manners. I watch that and I think, did they really talk like that? That was in the front of everything they did in a way that seemed so stilted. I'm glad we've gone away from that.
And that's where I think people misunderstand. People spoke in code at the cost of authenticity.
Yes, right.
And that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, because man, they were bitchy underneath.
And they couldn't say it.
They couldn't say it.
But they could insult in the most beautiful language.
I know. It is sort of, sometimes you're like, woo, that was a zinger. Yeah. That's not the goal here. The goal is not to try and insult in beautiful language. That's called being passive aggressive, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, The Gilded Age and Sex and the City. You'd think that HBO sponsored this episode, but they did not.
Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify